Hi everyone, Sherry Canino here, and welcome to this week's Stencil Crush Tuesday. I'm starting out using the dual brush pens or markers by Tombow, and I'm selecting several colors. And I'm just very haphazardly scribbling down some color. I'm using a sheet of watercolor paper, but I actually tried this on a sheet of regular mixed media paper, and it works just as fabulous. So if you don't have watercolor paper, no worries. Once you get the color down, you're going to want to take your water bottle and just spritz some water on there and just watch the magic happen. Look at that. Gorgeous, gorgeous drips. If you're someone who loves drips, these markers are for you. Once you're done adding the water to your paper, you want to make sure that you dry it thoroughly before you start this next step. So I dried mine, and I've pulled out my first stencil crush of the day, and it's called Scribble Blooms by Terry Stagg Miller. I'm taping off part of my stencil because I'm going to be using some black embossing paste by Wendy Vecchi, and I just want to make sure I don't go past the mark on the stencil that I want. So taping it just gives me a nice edge. Using a palette knife, just spreading the embossing paste over my stencil. And really the key to using any kind of texture medium with a stencil is don't work it too much. Spread it in one direction and from start to finish, and you'll get a better application. So now I've decided I'm going to add some crystal. It's just a clear glitter. This particular embossing paste is a matte finish, and so I want my page to have a little more pizzazz, so I've added some glitter to it while it's wet. Laying my stencil down on the other side and just gonna repeat the process. And you want to be sure that once you're done using any kind of texture paste or texture medium, that you clean your stencil off right away. Otherwise, it'll ruin your stencil. You want to be sure this is nice and dry before moving on. You can dry it by hand or dry it with a heat gun. And now I'm using stencil, the next stencil that's called Valentine of Mine by Margaret Applin. This has some really great elements on it. I'm using some white chalk paint, and I'm just stenciling randomly the words to get some nice text in the background. Kind of gives it a little vintage look, just adds a little something, a little more detail to the background. Now you saw me have this in this stencil. It's called last week. It's called Planner Lines 4 by Mary Beth Shaw. And I didn't use it. It was on my page, but you saw a little peek of it. And this stencil is just awesome. I'm using some black gesso, and I'm stenciling the wavy line down the edge. And not only does this give my page a nice edge, but it looks like a ribbon, and I love it. This stencil is great for those of you who are new to mark making, or you want to learn mark making, or you feel funny about mark making on your pages, because it's got a lot of great mark making elements. It's got little circles and squares and some little flowers, and you'll see I'm going to use the the little circles in the squares next. Still using the black gesso. So now I've got a piece of deli paper, and I'm using this black Pigma pen by Sakura, I think it is. And I'm just writing out my quote. I could have written it right on the sheet, right on my actual page, but if I messed up, you kind of have one chance. So I decided to write it on some deli paper because it'll kind of look translucent in the background, and it'll look like it was written right on this sheet. So now I'm using Mary C. Nasser's Go Your Own Way arrows, and I'm just stenciling an arrow in between two parts of my quote there. I've cut my quote out, and I'm gonna glue it on with some heavy gel matte medium. You can use regular matte medium. I just prefer the heavy gel. It's just personal preference, I think. And I use like a store card or credit card, or, you know, the old business card, and just kind of smooth it out. Make sure that the quote is stuck down well. And you'll see at one point, and I left this in there for you guys to see, that at one point I was like, I started to glue it on and it's upside down on my page. This is where I realized. And I was going to pull it up and turn my page around, but quite honestly, the page can go either way. Once I started gluing it on, you really couldn't tell that the drips were going in one direction or the other, so I just left it. You want to make sure that all your sides are stuck down, and apply a coat of it to the top as well. And I kind of noticed that my text had gotten lost in the background because I had used a paint. So I decided to use white gesso and add a little more of that vintage text, and just get a little bit more of it on the background there. So now I'm taking a white gel pen. It's a Uniball pen, and I'm just adding some details to my little ribbons. And I add a little bit of detail to my arrow that's on there as well. I do some dots on it, just kind of making it pop a little more. And now I'm taking my black gesso with my finger, and I'm just giving my page a little bit of an edge. The stencil was off the edge a little ways, and I felt like it was floating and not so much part of the page. So this, I think, kind of ties it all together and just makes it feel a little more grounded. And once I looked at it, I kind of thought it's missing something. So I went back in with that Planner Lines 4 stencil by Mary Beth Shaw and my black gesso, and added some of those little squares and dots on the other side. Just balances it off a little bit more, I felt. And that's it, friends. We're done. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next week.